So the other day, I watched 1,000 players simulate Civilization Rich and Poor, which, to be honest, I thought was just going to be another Minecraft video. It turned out to be one of the biggest pieces of literal cinema that I've seen all year. It was absolutely phenomenal, and so many of y'all have been asking me to watch other, points of view from that series. I don't know exactly which one to watch in which order, so please let me know down in the comments, but today we're going to be watching The Problem with Simulating Society in Minecraft. This is like a follow-up to that video, and they're basically saying it just doesn't work or doesn't make sense, and I'm curious about it, so let's take a look together.
A handful of YouTubers have run social experiments where a certain number of players, usually 100 to 1,000, would be dropped in a world with certain rules to abide by, with the goal of building a civilization. It started with YouTuber Magic Gum, who had been theorizing.
Oh wow, wait, so people have done this a lot beforehand. So, okay. Let me explain real quick here. I am very new to this kind of Minecraft world. That was the first Minecraft video that I've seen since Hunting Optic, 50, however many years ago that was. It was a very long time ago. But I love anything with a gripping storyline, and it was 2.5 hours of literal cinema. It was very well done. It was well, not even animated, but the camera angles were so cool. The voiceover was perfect. They got the right moments, and it felt like a beginning to end masterpiece of a story.
On his channel about how human history would have been different if humanity existed in Minecraft. He ran this social experiment to test these theories in 2021. He started by making a public server where people who died would be temporarily banned to mimic the risk of death that real life posed. Consequently, the server was thrown into a series of endless murders as players found it satisfying to be able to temp ban people by killing them. Magic Gum tried to...
interesting. So that's not like real life. There's not many people that will go around literally killing people, but that's because it's not temporary in real life. It's permanent, right?
Remedy this by adding a reputation system, which only worsened the issue as players tried to speedrun to the worst reputation. In an attempt to steer his experiment in the...
And to be fair, sorry, I know I'm pausing a lot already. I think that makes sense from a gaming perspective, right? Because I've always had this kind of opinion. When I'm playing a game, if I have the option to play a bad guy, I kind of want to play it because I like to think that I don't play a bad guy in real life. I would never do half the stuff that we do in video games in real life. So it kind of gives you a bit of an insight into what that'd be like in a weird way. Not in kind of a sadistic way, I don't think. But if I'm playing a game like Prototype back in the day, if anybody remembers that on PlayStation 2, you can do some heinous shit, dude. You can possess people, you can rip people in two. Obviously you're not going to do that in real life, so why not do it in a video game? That's why people like watching scary movies, because they don't want to go through that in real life, but it gives you that kind of thrill. It's cool.
The direction he wanted, he created a formal event that would run for specific times during a set number of days, along with set rules to attempt to guide the players into cooperating with each other. In this first experiment, he put 100 players into different 100 by 100 block boxes.
This was like Fortnite.
Boxes with different biomes and resources, along with sending RDMers to their own box called Australia to form a prisoner colony. The goal of the experiment was to see how different groups reacted to the available resources and how that changed the way they organized themselves. Magic Gum's rules had to be very strict and very guided to get players to cooperate. The most
which is also similar to real life. We have laws and jurisdictions that you have to follow as a human being, right? Honestly, dude, I assume before we had these governments in real life and these law and order kind of scriptures to follow, it would probably have been like this back in the day, right?
Blatant of these rules being literally telling them form a civilization to advance to the next level. The next level being trading and interacting with other civilizations. Similar rules, or at least expectations, had to be implemented in most following experiments done by Magic Gum, Ish, and other large creators. I'd like to propose that the reason players had to be forced to cooperate by weeding out antisocial players and imposing rules and expectations was because of the individualistic nature of Minecraft's production loop, and that if the
100%, yeah, I think that makes sense. And also just, again, the fact that it is also a video game. It's not real life. So simulating real life in anything that's not actually real life with real life consequences is always going to be very tough.
This individualistic production loop was replaced by a social production loop. Players wouldn't need to be coerced into cooperation by outside rules and would lead to much more interesting and divergent experiments.
Why did we need rules? Why is Minecraft different?
Analyze why Magic Gum had to resort to outside rules and expectations to get players to cooperate, whereas these external rules were not needed in real-life social development.
Okay, I kind of understand the point now. Hold on, I think I've been missing the point this entire time. So what they're saying here is that they had to implement the rules beforehand for people to follow, whereas in real life, those rules weren't predetermined and put into the world. They were created by these civilizations in real life. So they expect the people that are playing to be able to just do that and progress naturally without having the outside influence. I get it. Okay.
The simple answer is that in Minecraft, every player is able to meet their individual material requirements fairly easily. This is something to be expected, considering the game would be very boring if you couldn't play without 20 other people. Cooperation is only useful in reducing the time needed to produce the materials to satisfy those requirements. Take, for example, food. Ignoring the fact that lack of food won't kill you outside of hard mode, food is exceptionally easy to get by either making...
Bro, I'm not gonna lie. I actually didn't know that. So a little bit of a spoiler here. And by the way, for the people that are joining this from Minecraft, welcome in. We actually have a community Minecraft server. If you'd like to join the Discord, you can play with the community. I'm actually in the process of making a video series right now about my first time properly playing Minecraft. I thought when your hunger run out, like your hearts would just disappear and you die. So that's news to me. I know basically nothing about Minecraft. I struggled to remember from like way back when I was like 10 years old playing Minecraft how to make a nether portal. I did figure it out, but it was very weird. And there's a lot of stuff in the game now that I just didn't even know existed, so you can expect a fun little video series coming on that, because it's going to be a blast. I've played for about 12 hours so far, and I found like 10 diamonds or something. I thought that was like the end game.
A small farm, or by simply hunting some of the many passive mobs that spawn in abundance, mobs which will not defend themselves. Yep. Food security for each individual player can be reached by each individual player working on their own. This means the only reason players would work together to provide food security is if they collectively just wanted to, or if there was an external expectation or rule to do so. Next, let's move on to housing. Housing is something that is required to protect players from hostile mobs. Basic housing can be built with any block and can be constructed within the first 30 seconds of spawning. The only reason players would work together to provide housing is if they wanted to build something more, well, pleasing to the eye.
Yeah, also even something more you like utilizable, right? Like if you want to build basically a hotel somewhere that multiple people can stay and also have uses for, like an armory, maybe I don't know, a freaking chill room, like a pool, stuff like that. But I guess that would also go under the umbrella of pleasing to the eye. It's not necessary to survive.
At a faster rate than working alone. Or if they just all wanted to, take you and your friends teaming up to build a town, for example, or if there was an external expectation or rule to do so. This goes on with nearly everything you would need or want to do in Minecraft. I call this the individualist production loop, referring to how each individual player can gather all of the resources and craft, build, or grow everything necessary to meet their material needs and complete their wants or goals. The option to work together is there, but it's not required.
I love that they look so happy about making a little hole in the ground. It took me, I want to say, and you'll see this in the video when it comes out, I think it took me 2 hours to build my first house.
Because of this, players who want to go around murdering everyone can do so. These aspiring murderers can work by themselves to provide themselves housing, food, weapons, armor, etc. Hence the need to require cooperation and to weed out those who choose to go it on their own. From this analysis, the solution to creating a naturally developing Minecraft society is clear. Make it extremely hard or impossible for each individual player to produce their material needs by themselves.
Damn, dude, this does sound more like real life right now, though. That kind of sucks.
If they cannot by themselves provide food security for themselves, or housing for themselves, or weapons or armor for themselves, then these conditions, their material conditions, make it impossible for players to go off on their own and become antisocial axe-wielding maniacs. And moreover, it makes it extremely important for players to cooperate to meet their material needs, leading to the formation of social relations of production in the process.
Social relations in a video game like this, though, are some of the coolest things that can develop, right? And whether it's naturally or I guess like slightly forced upon people, then I guess that does differ, because social relationships like that should always be formed naturally. So when there's predetermined rules that are like, go and make these relationships to make your life easier, it does kind of lose a bit of its charm as well.
I call this the social production loop in Minecraft, where players need to work together in a coordinated way to gather the resources and craft, build, or grow their material requirements.
Yeah, it's like a production line, right?
This is why Minecraft civilizations fail to create their own unique societies, and typically build off of preconceived notions that players bring from real life, such as we need to build a democracy or empire or kingdom or dictatorship instead of a social organization evolving from their existing conditions. In real life, it's extremely difficult to provide for yourself all of your material needs by yourself. And
it's almost impossible, especially in this day and age. That's what I was talking about earlier.
Therefore, why humans necessarily form social relations of production to be able to produce in sufficient quantities the material requirements of life. This is why social anxiety is rooted in our DNA, because our ancestors who were scared of being shunned or exiled by their tribe would be biologically incentivized to cooperate and to form these relations to avoid being left to fend for themselves. Of course, we don't need to simulate anxiety in Minecraft. We just need to provide the conditions which gave rise to it. Here are some
what is going on with this poor pig, bro?
General recommendations. 1.
Jesus.
Increase the required usage of food or decrease the yield of food sources. 2.
That does increase, bro. Oh my god, it took me so long to find food sources in the game. Oh my goodness. I did also forget that you can make like little farms and stuff. I'm excited for you all to see like my first like reintroduction to Minecraft properly after God knows how many years it was, probably 15. I feel like it's a really fun kind of insight as like a not a brand new player. It's not my first time ever playing, but I haven't played properly like an actual Minecraft where people haven't just given me everything I need in years, dude. It was so cool to figure things out for the first time and have to like remember things from the past, like being able to breed animals that I totally forgot about.
Increase the cost of housing or increase the drawbacks of lack of housing. 3. Increase the cost of tools, weapons, and armor. 4. Increase the material requirements for players, such as adding thirst, tiredness, etc. 5. Introduce a player reproduction system where 2 players on the server with enough food could create a new player slot to allow previously dead or new players into the server. In following these general recommendations, I would advise not to simply increase how much food players need or decrease yields directly in loot drops and harvesting, as it can be annoying to players who are accustomed to needing a certain amount of food and yielding a certain amount from drops and harvests.
Yeah, it's a very hard line to balance. It's like a tightrope, and you don't want to lean too far one way, otherwise everybody's going to be unhappy. But if you lean too far the other way and things are too easy, then that's when you come up with the problem, right? Because then you're not simulating society. You're simulating a paradise, basically.
I would recommend a more creative approach, such as progressive health drop as you get hungrier, or livestock needing a constant supply of food to stay alive and not just to reproduce. The same goes for all of...
That sounds cool. That sounds more like real life.
Their modifications don't just increase how much iron goes into an iron pickaxe, for example. Make it actually...
Can you actually do all this stuff though, like with mods? I haven't, I mean, okay, I was gonna say I've never played modded Minecraft, but this goes back to what I was saying before. I've played, so in the past like 15 years, other than when I was a kid on Xbox, I've played Minecraft one time, and it was, I made a community server about 5 years ago or something for my Twitch community, and I hopped on every now and then, and like in creative mode, just build houses and stuff. But most of the time, people just give me stuff and tell me how to do stuff. So I didn't really get that true Minecraft experience, which is what I'm striving for now. But with mods, I don't even remember what mods we had. It was mainly shaders, I think. With mods, can you actually go that far? Can you make this game into whatever you goddamn want it to be at that point? Is that a thing?
Actually harder to make a pickaxe by requiring ore to be maybe smelted and then immediately forged using special expensive utility blocks. Something like that. In Magic Gum's most recent video, he addressed some of these points. He actually introduced a thirst system, he introduced natural disasters, and environmental change. Unfortunately, the only consequential change in material requirements was during the Ice Age, when crops and livestock froze to death, making food hard to come by. Outside rules and expectations were especially strong during the late stages when special resources were introduced to incentivize trade and expansion. Because of the hesitancy in curtailing the individualist production loop, groups of players still had to be externally steered and directed into organizing into civilizations and expanding to other civilizations similar to the first experiment.
This is very similar to Ish's simulating society, right? Because I in the very beginning, they were literally they chose an island. So even at that preconceived point, you know that one island is going to be one thing and another island is not going to be the same. You don't know if it's going to be worse or better, but you can kind of guess if you get to your island and it's fucking amazing or terrible, right? So you already go into it with that preconceived notion, and then knowing that there's another island with a group of people on it, and you being on one island, it's already kind of not failing, because I don't think that was the attempt of Ish's video. His video was absolutely phenomenal. It was more of an entertainment thing, while at the same time simulating what it would be like for rich and poor specifically, not just civilization in general. So I guess that is a little bit of a bit of a difference between just simulating society and then simulating a civilization of rich versus poor at that point. Because again, going into it, as soon as people spawned on those islands, whether it was 50 people or 500 people, if you know there's another island, you kind of already want to make sure that you are going into it with everything covered. Like, as soon as these islanders come over, are they going to be hostile? Are they going to be friendly? It's like us with aliens, right? On fucking Earth, we've already got this civilization going, and if aliens come over and they're like, yeah, put them up, we're robbing you, we want to be prepared for that, and vice versa. Fucking tinfoil. I don't know where I'm going with this. Holy shit, I'm just yapping. But this is what I say. There's a very big difference between just simulating society from the get-go and then going into it with preconceived ideas. It's very tough. I understand the point. It's very difficult to do.
I propose that a social production loop implemented in a civilization experiment in Minecraft through the use of mods would produce a much more complex, spontaneous, and interesting society with much more complex, spontaneous, and interesting politics, economics, and therefore storytelling.
Absolutely.
Without the guardrails and guidelines made by staff members and event organizers steering the development of civilizations, the viewer will feel that anything can happen, and that anything that does happen can be analyzed with much greater depth than in current experiments. For a simple example of how it can be more interesting for the viewer, compare games with an in-game economy that are set up by developers versus a game such as EVE Online that has an economy completely run by players and regular.
Brother, I have heard so many good things about this game, EVE Online, from a lot of old friends of mine and like recent friends of mine. It kind of made me want to try it out, but people told me not to get into it at this point because it's just far too complex, and like starting now, there's like no possible way to even catch up to what like the top people are doing, which it kind of puts me off a little bit. I am a little bit competitive when it comes to stuff like that, but this seems like an incredibly cool like space Minecraft, I guess.
Regulated by natural laws, and is so interesting and has so much depth that multiple videos totaling tens of millions of views are being made to analyze it. Just imagine the ripple effects of even one large-scale experiment using a social production loop could generate, especially if participants record and upload their own POV to tell their own story. In terms of how the experiment should be structured, I recommend the event style that Magic Gun pioneered instead of a full-time server, which would require a claim system to prevent griefing and theft when players are offline. Such systems could prevent emergent scenarios, such as in-game property laws, and could ruin both the players and the viewers' immersion.
Exactly, and that's another important thing, the immersion, right? You don't want to prevent people from doing crimes, but when you're also making this content for entertainment, you don't want people to, like, you know, constantly get spawn griefed or their house constantly getting blown up and stuff.
A set period of time, most likely 2 to 3 hours, a few days a week, or even 1 day a week, can let players rest easy after sessions, knowing that everything will be as they left it. This downtime in between sessions can also give space to role-playing elements, as players can plan and make decisions outside of the game. The combination of the social production loop and the event structure can give rise to truly unique forms of social organization. The different ways that groups of players organize and coordinate their production could be limitless. Another interesting question I want to have answered is, assuming that we start with many groups of players separated by distance, all developing their own societies, how will those societies develop over time? Will one form of social organization conquer the rest? What power structures will arise, if any? With
kind of like a Hunger Games, right? Everybody starts at a different district and then they can all come together at the end.
Renewed emphasis.
Maybe not even at the end, but come together and see how their specific civilizations, specific like guilds kind of collaborate with each other, or if they just don't.
On meeting material needs, will players be as focused on abstract goals as they were in past experiments? We can only really speculate until such an experiment is done, but hey, if this video gets a decent amount of support, I may just get together with some modders myself. If you'd be interested in a Minecraft civilization experiment with a social production loop, just let me know by giving this video a like and putting some feedback down in the comments section.
I will be doing that.
See you in the next video.
Hell yeah, man. Okay, so I will be liking this video right now. Subscribing as well to Joyful. Make sure you check out the link down in the description below. And subscribe to this channel if you do want to see some more Minecraft stuff. I feel like we've been branching out into a lot of different areas of the internet lately. And honestly, the endless possibilities of Minecraft is something that is kind of drawing me a little bit further in. And having my own first-time experience playing the game and learning the ropes, basically, is making me enjoy it a lot more than previous times where I basically had all of the items hand-fed to me, like enchanted. I don't even know how to enchant things, bro. I know it's a possibility because I remember getting like a sword with an enchantment on it for spiders or something, but like I still to this day I don't know how to do it. I don't know. It's stressful, but it's so fun at the same time. And yeah, hopefully you'll enjoy this content. Let me know down in the comments if you do. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you all in the next video.